Well,
He's with me.
Danger player empowerment. Danger.
These three players are about to change how the CBA is written in order to combat player empowerment. Let's get into it. Player empowerment versus ownership control. I feel like the year 2022-2023 is going to really draw the line in the sand where player empowerment versus ownership control and where each group gets on and gets off, especially when the CBA is fast approaching. Now, if you didn't know, DeAndre Ayton signed his restricted free agent tender yesterday for $133 million, and which the Suns essentially matched within an hour. So we're looking at a situation where Ayton's off the books as far as his Kevin Durant trade goes. He essentially controls his destiny for next year, where in January he can be traded, but he holds veto power against any trade up until that offseason. Now, in my opinion, Ayton did this as a power move, considering the Suns have been more or less disrespecting him on and off the court as far as getting a new contract signed. So obviously they felt he could get a max contract, and they essentially was waiting for a team to throw an offer and then just match it from there, so they wouldn't be paying over fair market value. Now, with that said, the Suns have now been more or less pushed down to the same level as the Miami Heat as far as offers go for Kevin Durant. Right now, as it stands, the best offer you can throw at them now with Ayton off the books is Bridges, Crowder, Johnson, and 4 first-rounders, the 2023, 25, 27, and 29, because of how the trade rules work, and 29 first-round picks with 3 pick swaps for the years in between those aforementioned years. That's basically the best offer they can throw, unless Brooklyn has some contracts they want to get off their book, like I forgot the guy's name, or like Ben Simmons. That's a pretty good example. Ben Simmons, I would imagine, is someone I would want on my books if I don't have Kevin Durant and Kyrie on the team no more. Now, at this point though, even though they're more or less on the same level, Miami does still have an uphill battle. The 2025 pick and its protections belong to OKC, so they can't even match the 23, 25, 27, 29 that the Suns are throwing. And even with offering Hero, Nikola Jovic, and 3 unprotected first rounders and some pick swaps, they're still pretty far away on money, with the other way being for them to match the money that they're taking on is to send either Lowry or Udonis Haslem as part of the deal. Now, I'd imagine that's really probably saying Lowry than anything else, because Udonis Haslem is basically a Heat lifer at this point. And that's all to kind of bring it back to the head to say that the Nets have more or less created a giant mess centered around players that are pushing the envelope of where player empowerment goes and stays and where it should be properly applied. Now, I feel bad for Nets fans, because in this whole player empowerment movement that the Nets are basically, not going to say abusing, but more or less seeing where the limits lie, you have a situation where if you are a Harden fan and bought a Harden Nets jersey, that's useless at this point. And it kind of points to the fact that the Nets ownership is trying to take control back from the players. And at this point, the players are more or less running this team. Now, we already know Kevin Durant demanded a trade. When I say demanded, I'm saying that in the sense of relative of not asking for a trade at all. Demanded a trade to basically Miami or Phoenix. Now, with this train working situation, you have Kyrie Irving, who's basically at this point a 1-year rental and can't be traded to no one else but the Lakers. You have Kevin Durant, who's basically demanding a trade to Phoenix or Miami, or any team that's contending, I should say it that way. But Phoenix or Miami are the 2 main destinations he's talked about, or has been mentioned through the news. And then you have Ben Simmons in the middle of all this, who hasn't played since essentially that playoff run where they lost against the Hawks.
NANI?
with all that going on one team, and the Nets trying to basically placate Durant when they send him on his way, figure out where Kyrie Irving's going to go, figure out whether Ben Simmons is ever even going to play again. This points to the fact and is a giant argument against player empowerment. This is the second year in a row where player empowerment honestly cost a team a championship run. In the first case, it was the Lakers when they took on Russell Westbrook. Unfortunately, I'm not going to say unfortunately, pretty much to everyone's non-surprise, Russell didn't fit. He can't shoot threes. He plays one certain way. And honestly, considering LeBron and AD, pretty much any other star that's very ball dominant, he's in the way. It won't work. He can't work with another ball dominant player. He has to deal with someone that can work off ball very well. That's all to say that player empowerment is starting to go nuclear, and at this point, I wonder if the CBA is going to be changed, like Shannon Sharp mentioned on one of his shows. He said they had talked with some ownership, and then that owners across the league are watching this situation pretty closely because, well, it's getting to the point now that players aren't even fulfilling their contracts.
Like here, I pulled a clip from Undisputed where Shannon touches on this and how the NBA probably honestly, well, when I say the NBA owners probably honestly feel about this whole Kevin Durant situation. It's actually pretty sad considering that, honestly, for all the work that previous players did and honestly what LeBron did back when he joined the Miami Heat, it's basically going to be taken back by essentially one group of players who are taking this way beyond where it was meant to be taken for player control.
We give us Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, we'll give you Kevin Durant. What? What?
It would require something on that order.
Anybody give you the two best players and 4 first rounders? So now, all of a sudden, now let's just say for the sake of argument, some team were to do that. And then Kevin Durant, him being unhappy and because Kevin Durant got moods also. He has these incredible mood swings also. And says, guess what, in a year or 2 years, man,
okay.
He wants to make another business decision. Now what am I supposed to do, Skip? I've mortgaged the future, and I've given up my 2 young players. One's 25, the other's 24. Now what do I do?
So if, in fact, there is a groundswell of owners throughout this league trying to take the
they're
league
going to get
back,
it back. They're going to get it back,
then the point is that Joe Tsai in Brooklyn is going to sit back and say, I'll placate. I'll do my quote-unquote best to trade Kevin Durant. But in the end, I'm going to say, Kevin, I got you for 4 more years, and you're going to have to play here. And I honored my side of this. I need you to honor your side of this.
The NBA owners need to take a page out the NFL owners' book.
Yes, correct.
Them, hey, you do whatever you want to, but them 32, they're going to band together. There might be 5 or 6 of them that don't really like each other. But when it comes to somebody trying to attack them from the outside, they're going to link up. Now, they're going to take this power back from the players. Now, you best believe, Skip, there are other owners on the phone. Joe, we really appreciate if you were to hold firm because this would go a long way in us pulling back power from these players.
I agree.
Because right now, they have all the control. They sign a contract, and they don't play 1 year on the new contract, and they want out. Or they play 1 year on the contract, and they say, well, give me this or I want out. We need to take this back.
And unfortunately, his value is too high for him to be easily traded. But at the same time, he's older, and the Nets want so much for him that it's exceedingly hard to trade him to any team outside of, right now, the Phoenix Suns and the Miami Heat, which most of the value garnered from the trade is going to be from the draft assets, not so much the players that you're getting back. Because initially, they wanted other two superstars and some draft picks. But unfortunately, any team that has 2 superstars isn't going to want to trade for Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant can't carry a team no more. So, unfortunately, at this point, the Nets almost have to settle. And any team that can give them significant draft assets more than what was already offered for Gobert isn't contending. So, you send him to a lottery team, but Durant's not going to be enough to get him over the top. And honestly, with Durant being put on the team, he's going to lower the draft stock of what you just got back for him. And to put him on a contending team, he wants to make sure that the contending team's core stays together. So you're not going to get any superstars out of that. This is all to point to the fact that player empowerment may be in danger in the next CBA. And then all in the while with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving both more or less respectfully demanding trades, we still have an unknown with Ben Simmons because most of the issues that are going on with him pertain to mental health. And unfortunately, there's no end-all be-all cut and dry situation where you can figure out mental health. It may be a situation he might never play again. We don't know. And if I was the Nets, I'd be trying to find trade partners for him if I was them, but that's their prerogative. This is to ultimately say the Nets are going to be the 2022-2023 epicenter of player empowerment versus ownership control. Now, this offseason could really take off and Durant gets traded alongside Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving at this point is basically a done deal at this point. From what has been said in the news, Kyrie is basically out the door. We're just waiting on the gavel to drop as far as the decision made to get Kyrie Irving out of Brooklyn and onto the Lakers because they're the only team at this moment that are actually interested. The issue with that is that also with that too, we're going to have to get Russell Westbrook out of there. But that could be facilitated out. This coming NBA season is going to prove a lot in the sense of people's legacies, especially the old guard, and looking towards either retirement or looking towards basically rounding out their resume for that last little run. You have LeBron, KD, Kyrie, CP3, and Westbrook, all of which are in their 30s and pretty much in the back end of their prime. And at this point, they can't afford to waste time with experiments or rebuilding teams. They got to make their championship run now. This also will put a very big lens on player empowerment to the point to see where the line needs to be drawn and where players have decisions, well, players have choice in where they go and where ownership can tell them no. Now, mind you, I'm a Hawks fan. And one of the biggest things I really like about the NBA are the Golden State Warriors. They have, to me, the best balance of player empowerment and ownership control, where the players don't feel like they're ignored, but at the same time, the ownership isn't dealing with the ridiculous antics of whatever cockamamie plan the players come up with to be buddy-buddy with one of their friends on the team. And I feel like a lot of the other teams need to mimic this, even my Hawks, honestly. But at this point, the Nets aren't going to get what they feel they should get for Durant, because they've honestly waited too long, and Kyrie more or less ruined his trade market to make the... Kyrie indirectly ruined Durant's trade market and ruined his own trade market at the same time, because they were supposed to be a package deal, and unfortunately, because of how Kyrie operates, we all know that wasn't going to work. Yes, he opted into his contract, but it was more or less so that way he can guarantee his money no matter where he's going. Because at this point, he knows he's going to be traded, and with him being a one-year rental, the Nets can't really do anything about that. Now, they can obviously opt to keep both the players and just max out Kyrie and call it a day, but I would imagine running it back with how unstable Kyrie was is probably not optimal, and the ownership's already said he wants to take control of his team back from the players. Ultimately, this is saying that player empowerment may be in danger, and it's all the Nets and the Nets players' fault.
Like, share, and subscribe for more NBA and NFL content. Thanks for watching.